Hey everyone, welcome back to LOA Lessons on Advice. We're thrilled to have you with us for episode 8. I'm Ben Butler, and as always, I'm joined by my brilliant co-hosts, Adam Tweedie and Will Hartley. Now, today's topic is one that every advisor deals with at some point, referrals. We all know how powerful a good referral can be, but let's be honest, not all of them are created equal. Some of them come in seamlessly, with the referrer setting up everything perfectly, and others, well, let's just say they leave us to do some damage control. Have you ever had a referrer introduce you in a way that completely missed the mark? Maybe an accountant says you need financial advice and just leaves it at that. Or a mortgage advisor casually mentions, look, this is Ben. He does something with pensions. It's not exactly a strong handover, is it? So today we're breaking down the different types of referrers we work with, from accountants to solicitors and some more unexpected ones like estate agents, jewelers, and even hairdressers. We'll chat about what makes a great referral and how to help referrers introduce us better, the common challenges they face when trying to bring us into the conversation. So, whether your referral network is a well-oiled machine or you're still figuring out how to make those introductions smoother, this is the episode for you. Let's go into it. Will, where do you want to start?
Yeah, so I think, if we start with what's an idea of a good referral, and then we can go on to what we might have witnessed, which probably isn't all perfect. I think it's what you've touched on there, Ben. The best referral is always one where it's set up properly, because how that first interaction goes through from whether it's an accountant, solicitor, jeweler, whoever it might be, that first interaction the client has with them is massively impacts your interactions with them, and it massively sets the scene. So the more in depth that referrer goes, the natural progression is going to be much smoother and much quicker. And I think it also leads on to making sure that whoever's referring into you has a good idea of what your dream client looks like, and they can try and work towards that and try and get things geared up that way, rather than them just bombarding you with everyone they ever come across. So, most of us want, obviously we've all got numbers in mind and what they might have set up, and they might have, massive pot of pensions here for us to look at and all that other great stuff. But I think we all also probably have an idea of the mentality of the clients we want. So it's not always about the actual number, but it's about, well, you want someone who's engaged, you want someone who actually wants our help, not they've been pushed towards us. And I think for me, something that massively makes a difference is having someone who knows what they don't know, and is comfortable with the fact they've come to us because they want our expertise. Therefore, they're open to hearing from us, rather than it just being, well, I think I know best, and you're an advisor, so just agree with me. So I think it's that side of it that really makes the difference.
So how do you put that into practice? How do you go about your daily work and you try to implement some of the things that you've spoken about there?
I think it's about, making sure every referrer, when you bring them on board, the biggest thing is, if you can, letting them witness your client journey, so they know what their client is going to go through. They know the level of service they're going to receive, and it gives them a little bit of faith in the journey as well, that they're not just, throwing one of their clients into what they don't know. Obviously, a lot of referrers, unless you're dealing with a sort of massive company, this is their livelihood, this is what they've built, and their clients have a lot of trust in them. So for them to bring you into the fold, it takes a lot of trust on their part with you as well. So it's about making sure that they know that you're going to look after their clients more than anything else, and that they see you as an added service, rather than, well, I'm going to refer something to Will as and when it comes up. It's, no, actually, I believe Will is going to add some benefit to you, so I'm going to refer you for these reasons. And it's that making it a clean transition and part of their process is always just going to make it a lot easier.
It's always hard to find the right synergy as well. I feel like I'm still trying to work that out, and sort of trying different avenues, I suppose, and different types of professional connection, as well. So it does take a lot of time. Don't think you'll speak to one firm and it will just be a barrage of leads your way. And then, as you mentioned earlier, well, to do with hairdressers, I actually got one of my better leads from my barber as well, which is always good. And their whole day is just spent talking to people, so these things pop up naturally.
I always think with those more rogue referrers, like we've mentioned, jewelers, hairdressers, window cleaners, whatever it is, they are the ones where most of the time they've got a better relationship with your clients, and it's much more personal. Yeah. But also sometimes to get a lead from them, it's more about not necessarily marketing as in posters, leaflets, everything else, but the marketing that they're going to do. So, for example, I think this is going back a long time now, but there was a financial advisor who partnered with jewellers who, whenever the jeweller made an engagement ring, they gave a business card and said, you need to make sure your insurance is in place. Obviously, getting married is a massive thing. You need to make sure your finances are all flowing. And I think they might have even quoted that the biggest reason for divorce is not having your finances together. So, it's all about how if they set it up and can spin that story for you, it's just going to make it a lot easier.
I've never heard of that, but I've just jotted it down.
Yeah.
How is married life, Adam?
Yeah, not much different. We've got our insurances in order. Finances are all fine. So yeah, if we do part ways, that's sorted. But no, I think another. When I first started, I'm not sure if it's the same as you both, but I did find it really difficult to sort of almost explain what we do for clients. We understand it. You can sit down with a referrer and go through the full process to show them what you'll do with their clients. But I always found that it was really hard for other people to understand what we actually do, which is quite bizarre coming from this background. But that's something that you'll come across if you're new to the industry and just trying to explain. There's so many different ways that you can help clients that it's almost hard to pinpoint something and say, this is what we do. So I'm not sure if you both found that when you first started.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's also hard sometimes to draw that line as well, especially if it's a lead that's come from a accountant, to explain that yes, we can help you, but it's a partnership with your accountant. We can only go so far. You have to have us both on side, and that's why your accountant's led to us, because you can get a couple of years down the line and be doing reviews, and all of a sudden they forget that actually it's the whole reason we got involved was because you had an accountant, and we can't answer all the questions your accountant can answer.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's good as well to look at it the other way as well, in terms of what referrals that you make to other professions, and it's almost a value add that you can add to your new clients. So say somebody needs to complete the self-assessment for the first time. Oh, do you know any good accountants? You say, yes, we've worked with X for the past 5-10 years, and we refer quite a lot of clients over to them. And the bit of value that you get from that is that if this accountant pisses you off, they're going to piss me off as well, and I'm going to stop sending them business. So it's almost like that extra bit of security that you're sending them, plus you're keeping the accountant happy, and hope things are going both ways.
Yeah,
I think on that as well, it's also from the client's point of view, you're completing their financial journey. So I always think that with if you refer them through to get a will sorted with someone, it's like they know, well, yes, they've come to you, but you've helped them sort the pension out, and you've sent them on for the will, and you might have sent them for a mortgage as well, and they know that one call that they had with you has suddenly sorted everything out for them.
The issue is when you first start, if you're chatting to a decent sized solicitors firm, and they're thinking, okay, yeah, we could pass you clients, but deep down, well, for myself, one man band, I cannot pass them a lot of clients, which is quite a big jump. It's hard to say to them, yeah, pass me all these clients, but I cannot reciprocate it, which is quite difficult. So trying to portray that value add to their clients and make sure that they're looking after their clients as holistically as possible.
I think sometimes it's also getting across to them that it's actually protecting their web of clients and their client bank, because if you send them through to me as your financial advisor, if they have, let's say it's the accountant, if they have an accountancy question, I'm batting them back to you. If they go out and find their own financial advisor, that financial advisor might have a relationship with a different accountant, and all of a sudden you've got a little what started out as your client has got a little bit of competition. Whereas if you're referring it to someone within your network, then you've got that safety that it's always going to come back to you.
Mm-hmm. What's your view on financial arrangements as well? I know there's various different financial advisors that will give X amount or pay per client. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
I think I personally don't like it. I think quid pro quo is enough for it, but I know other financial advisors do, and they they do very well out of it. So I'm not here or there, but if somebody comes to me and say, "Oh yeah, and I'll give you 20% of the referral fee," I was like, "Yeah, that's great, but it's not gonna change the world for me." That 20%, I'd rather send it to someone who doesn't give me 20%, but they do a bloody good job of it. So I don't have strong feelings on it, but it's just not for me personally.
Yeah, same.
I think it definitely has its place, and I think it probably has more its place in those sort of businesses, as you've said, Adam, where you're not going to be able to refer business back, and you know that. And I think sometimes it can allow you to have that honest conversation that says, "I'm not going to pass you business. I will if it comes up, but I'm not going to be able to go out and hunt business for you. However, that's the reason you're getting." Whether it's a percentage, a fixed fee, whatever the arrangement is, you go, well, actually, that arrangement means that I don't have to pass you anything back. If that's how you get that set up. So I think it does have its place, definitely, but I do think you will get a lot more if you can set up reciprocal arrangements where I think it's a lot more friendly, and from the client perspective, it feels a lot more open as well.
Yeah.
I think because of the solicitors, accountants, they need to explain to the client that I'm getting money for this referral. It just doesn't look the best as well.
No.
I don't do it personally, but it's a bit of a difficult one.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to referrers, there's essentially two different camps that you can go for. You can go for the real established businesses, but you've got to accept that, look, everyone wants referrers. There are some companies that are really good at making these connections, and then there might be little old me who's 2 years in, and I don't really have those relationships yet. And one thing I found very successful was to find other professionals in the same camp as me. So find accountants that are just starting up, you will writers, estate planners, and just try and build the relationship up with them. They're not going to have you loads of volume to send you, and you're not going to have the volume to send them. But if you can keep relationships up and you can send one bit of business to them, that's going to, make their whole week if you can. And just sort of building your own professional network up and finding these kind of people, because that they are out there. You just need to find them.
I also think the other side of it is understanding what their perfect client is. Like we've said, it's important for us, it's important for them, but also understanding the ratios of fees and the differential there, because what for a will writer, for example, if they're charging a relatively low fee just to do a simple will, then they're going to need a lot of clients from us to equal one big pension transfer, in our world. So it's about understanding, well, what's the disparity between how much we charge versus what they charge, and keep trying to keep it fair and flowing that way as well.
Yeah. I think if it depends on the sort of the setup you've got as a financial advisor, but I still do quite a few first meetings, even every week, at least 3 or 4, and quite a lot of them won't come on board. Either they're not the right fit for me or I'm not the right fit for them. But I've just put it into my routine, you might say, for initial calls of, okay, do you have a will in place? Okay, do you have lasting powers of attorney in place? Maybe 1 in 100 have got both of them. I'm not exaggerating that. And then on the call, I can say, well, if you're not adverse to it, I can put you in touch with XYZ, and they can have a discussion about wills, because it's really important for these reasons, and LPAs are even more important for these reasons. Did you know that? And then when you start telling them the time frames for getting LPAs in place, it's like, oh my God, I had no idea. And it's just a really easy referral. So I can make a couple of those a week and keep people happy. It's just where I send them to that's probably the biggest strategic plan for me of what relationship do I want to build. Is it going to be someone established or somebody who's a bit more fledgling, and I don't have a massive commitment to this client in the nicest way possible, because I've just met them. I'm probably not going to be working with them on an ongoing basis, so I can be a bit more free in what direction I send them to.
Yeah. I think especially if you're talking about solicitors or will writers, for the lasting power of attorney, with us as younger advisors, you're generally speaking to younger clients, or I am anyway. And when you're speaking about power of attorney, they're thinking, something that my gran has. But I spoke to a solicitor and they said, well, just flip that in its head and say it's value for money. You're getting cover now, all the way up until you potentially need it. So value for money, get one in place now, and that's it, done. Which has been really useful, and clients are quite happy to look at that.
Yeah, I think the other challenge I've had, and I don't know about you, but same boat, Adam, you're speaking with younger people and you're trying to persuade people to get wills. And especially if it's people who just married, don't have kids, going, or even if they do have kids because of the size of the property. I always go down the rule of explaining testacy all the way through and going, yeah, to an extent it is common sense. To an extent you might be happy with the way it's going to go. But I'd sat down with a solicitor that I work with and we spoke about the timescales so I could get a bit more of an understanding around intestacy. And when she explained to me like how long it takes if you die without a will versus if you die with a will, it's a no-brainer, And it's just those little snippets you can get from your referrers that are going to help you to refer back to them. But to go back to that point, I think you were saying earlier, as a young advisor, when you're starting out, you're trying to make these connections, you do have to be a bit careful with where you send them because also your referrals, it's like currency, because if you can give it to someone, one person, if you send them 10 referrals, might send you 3. Someone else, if you send them 10 referrals, you'll get nothing back. So you need to make sure you send them to the right place. I think that's a really hard thing to work out. That's only through trial and error and throwing yourself at it.
Before we move off the topic of LPAs, I've worked with another advisor who, when he describes it, will refer it to a will is what happens to your money when you die, and LPA is what happens when you go goo-goo. And I don't particularly like it, but I think it's a really quite easy sell. One of you mentioned, we think of that's what we use for our elderly grandparents when they sort of start to lose their marbles. But all it takes is for me to drive home from the train station one night and be in a car crash and I can't pay the Amex bill or I can't decide on what medication I have. And these things make it, if not more important than a will in itself. And, if you're set up to, I don't want to say make the sales pitch because it's not, but it is, you'll find it a lot easier to have these conversations with clients.
I think as well, you don't need to lose capacity to use it. So you can have a power of attorney in place. You could be on the other side of the globe. Mum and dad need to access your bank account for something, and they can use that document, which is handy as well. So that's something I didn't know until a solicitor told me.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. And then when it comes to sort of managing these relationships with referrers, are you guys speaking to them regularly, or are you always on the lookout for someone new? Are you sort of like building these relationships like you do with your clients?
Yeah, I'm touching base regularly. Christmas time, dropping in hampers and all these types of things as well. Originally, when I started, all of my referrers were my personal contacts. So my mortgage broker was my personal mortgage broker became my mortgage broker referral pipeline, my accountant. But so I've known these people for many years anyway. Some are better than others. Some basically told me I'm too busy. I'm not really interested in passing business, and I don't want any business from you just because they're at the other end of their career. So that's good that they'll tell you that. So I've now got another accountant that I speak to instead of my personal accountant, which is good. But I do touch base regularly, I would say.
I think it's good to continuously give them a reminder. I know I had a chat with, it was actually one of the will writers that I've worked with in the past, and they were talking about, I was part of there because I regularly checked in with them, and they were saying they were having a bit of a lull in referrals in, and the slight tweak that they were looking to make was to set up statements to let, because they used to pay, they never paid us but paid other companies because we don't believe in it, but they pay, they had a lot of hairdressers, people like that, where they would pay, and they said they were thinking of bringing in statements, but their problem was they would have to send them infrequently because they weren't getting enough referrals. And actually it was, well, if you flip it on the head and you send those every month and it shows a blank, that's probably going to have more of an impact because it's going to remind them, actually, I should have sent them something and I haven't, and I think most people, if you get a blank bill, you'd go, oh, actually, I need to start doing something here. So I think any regular touch point that goes, hi, I'm still here, I'd still like something going through, thank you. But I also know, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this, I know some of our advisors that I've worked with in the past will sit in an office. So if it's an accountant, they'll sit in the accountant's office one day a week, and they found that works for them. I think it all does depend on the actual who you're referring to and how they work as well. Because if they do all their meetings online, there's no point you being in their office because you're never going to see a client. Whereas if they do exclusively face-to-face, clients are coming in with a big stack of paperwork and not including that is some pension work and whatever else, then, naturally it's going to be easy to go, so-and-so, will you just call in and have a look at this paperwork?
It's funny you say that about the blank bill, because my paraplanner sends me a Friday update, and some of the updates are, "Hi Adam, nothing done this week. Thanks. Speak next week." And then you're like, okay, I've not had a complicated case, so I need to search for that and send it over to them.
Yeah, that's it. It's that reminder that actually they're still there. They still need some work.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. One thing I was going to mention before it completely slipped my mind on the wills is one agreement I had with an estate planner was if you imagine what the main objection for a young person to write a will is, there's some big life event on the horizon. I'm getting married in 6 months. I'm about to buy a house. I'll do the will once that's done. And then so I negotiated that if they write a will with them, that they can update it free of charge within 3 years. And so that really helps the conversion, particularly for younger clients, to take up that service. So that's something just to think about.
Yeah, well, sorry, Ben, but I came across our will writer that I'd been working with for quite a while came up to me and approached me about this pitch and said, "What do you think?" And theirs was, it was one will, and it lasted the whole. It was for life. You paid it was a much larger fee up front, but it was for life. And with the sort of clients that I was seeing at the time, it was perfect because it was clients who were cash rich right now, but were going to get married, had plans to get kids, and it was just such a natural. And I would say it felt a lot better from me as well, because when you're pushing a client and going, "You do need a will. I'm always going to recommend you get a will." Sometimes you go, "Yeah, but I completely understand why you're not, because you're literally about to get married in a few months and da 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 da." Whereas with that, it was like, actually, it's a no-brainer. Why not?
Yeah,
Where
I like those. Go on, sorry.
No, I was just going to say, where do you generally find your referrers? Is it from networking? Is it from LinkedIn? Where do you find those avenues for leads?
Personally, mine's been mainly through networking, although the odd few come from actual clients. So if your client goes, "Oh, I've been speaking with my accountant," and
Yeah.
I always say, if you've got an accountant, can I have the details? And we'll keep in touch. And if you ever want me to come along to your meeting that you have with your accountant, especially if you're dealing with businesses, and I've made connections that way with accountants, because they've seen the impact I've had on their client already.
Yeah. I've had, funny you say that about accountants. One of my clients that I reviewed recently changed accountant. So took down the details, phoned them to introduce myself, just said, I'm X's financial planner. This is how we help clients. Oh, that's fantastic. And I was going to touch base with them again to maybe formalise the relationship. Then I just randomly got a text message about 2 days later saying, this accountant referred on your details, and I hadn't even mentioned about referrals. So I've got a meeting with him next week. But that was really good, and it was very quick, and it was zero mention of referrals. So we'll see how that one goes.
It is that the proof's in the pudding, and if you're already looking after their client and your client goes to them and is selling, "Oh, he's brilliant, he's Adam, da 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 da," it's so much easier for them to believe that than if we walk in and say we're brilliant.
Yeah, no, that's true. Absolutely.
Yeah, I think one thing that we're quite good at is running events. So quite a lot of our clients are all in the similar kind of boats, and so one thing we like to do is to run events with one of the companies we'll work with. So it might be an MPS provider or alternative investments provider. We split the bill, 50-50, go to a nice restaurant or something like that. We bring 6 clients, they bring 6 clients, everybody has a lovely evening, glass of wine, etc. And we'll typically pick up a couple of clients from that process, and it's not too hard to organise, particularly if you've got a big company that wants to run it hand in hand with you. And it's sort of just thinking outside the box of just thinking, okay, I'm going to be a bit active, on the front foot and do an event like this, or I don't know, something else just to make yourself stand out, because it's value add to the client, because they get to hear about a bit more about maybe what they're already invested in or what they could be invested in. The provider, informs them with loads of great knowledge, and everyone's very happy by the end of it. You know, so. Yeah.
Yeah. I was thinking about putting on an event for introducers as well. So, bring along my mortgage broker, accountant, solicitor, all those types of people, just to as a bit of a thank you, but also a reminder. I'm still here. This is what we look for. Here's a bit of a market update. Those types of things. So,
I think
as long as you don't invite 4 mortgage brokers.
That's what I was just going to say. I think those things are brilliant, but you do have to tread carefully because if you've got a few, or even if you've got a prickly accountant who already has their own mortgage advisor, they could get funny about the fact that you've got a mortgage advisor and be worried that they're going to miss out on a referral by you on their behalf. But in the whole, I think they're massively helpful because it also shows a bit more credibility that it's not just this one accountant that's agreed to do business with you. Actually, well, I've got an accountant, I've got mortgage. It shows how wide your network is.
I think as well, from a networking perspective, if you go to a networking event and meet a mortgage broker that's been networking for like 10 years, they're going to have met a million different financial planners. Whereas all of my introducers, they've got established businesses. They've probably never been to a networking event. It's very much, this is our firm. It's been built from the ground up. So I found it hard from a networking perspective to get in proper connections with individuals. I'm not sure if you found the same, Will, or.
I think it is that we've touched on in the past, where if you go to a networking group because it's got an opening for the financial advisor, the reason it's got an opening is because they've had a financial advisor for the last 5 years who's absolutely rinsed everyone in the group. Everyone's insured up to the hill. All their pensions have been transferred, and there's it's all dried up. So I think you are right. You can go most networking groups, if you go into them, every mortgage advisor has 3 financial advisor mates, every solicitor, and it is just finding those niches. And I think it goes back to what Ben said at the start of finding people in the similar boat to you, like just starting out, and because they're the ones where if you start building that connection now, it's going to pay for yourself in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, I think the event's definitely something to look out if you're starting as a financial advisor, because I know from experience, if I were to go to any event, I wouldn't do a Teams call because I don't enjoy them. I don't really listen, if I'm being honest with you. I'd much prefer to see someone face to face. I mean, next week I've got a breakfast and a lunch with 2 other investment companies. And the only reason I said yes to that is because it's face to face and in person, not because they're paying for my breakfast and my lunch, but that might also be part of it, But I'll be there, I'll be present, and I'll take it all in. And I think referrers are probably exactly the same. I remember back in the day, I used to just cold call people, just get up to call an accountant up, say, "Hi, I'm Ben, this is what I do. I live really close to you. We're in the same space. Do you want to work together?" And that would less than 5% success rate. I made a lot of calls, and so it did work in the end. But it wasn't a great way to start off those kind of relationships. And typically they'd already been around the block, and they've worked with financial advisors. And so it's just a real hard thing to do, but it's fine if you're happy to do the grind. But if you're running these kind of events, as we've just said, you can get other like-minded people in the room. You can see they're legit because they've managed to get 6, 7, 8 plus more people. And they've got a bit of capital behind them. They must be doing all right because they're buying my breakfast for me. So I think it all helps.
Yeah. I've done the same. I've sent out emails to local accountancy firms, but they've seen it all before. And I do think getting the accountant that referred me on to a client is not even in the same town as me. They're in another town, maybe about 40 minutes away. So I would have never have came across them if it wasn't for my client bank. And considering they've already passed me quite a decent client within 4 days, then who knows, what will come of it. But I think just nurturing your current client bank and seeing who's there and take down details and listen.
I think we need to sort of move on to the best referrer of them all. And it's probably not who you expect, but it's your existing clients. It's got to be. I think that's where most people say, most of their new business comes from. You've done really well on one client. They've mentioned your name down the pub or the cafe or the hairdressers or whatever it may be, and they've got in touch with you from there. So is there anything that you guys do to sort of promote that thinking within your existing clients, or you sort of prepare them so they know the best way to introduce you over to them?
Personally, I always find it so much easier if you're face to face. Because you
Yeah,
can, especially if you're in the
definitely.
house, you can practically hide business cards around the house just to make sure they've definitely got one. Whereas if it's done remotely, I think it's so much harder to try, and you've got to really put yourself out on the limb and blatantly ask for it. Whereas if you're there, you go, oh, by the way, I know we're just finishing up. Here's my business cards. Obviously, if you need anything else, or if there's anyone else I can help, it's quite natural. Whereas if it's remote, you have to go out your way to ask for it, really.
Yeah.
I think if you help a client that's like, for example, one of my clients is in the oil and gas industry, contractor. He told me all of the issues that he has. When we're in our initial meeting, this is what we all struggle with. So I was saying, well, if you're struggling with it, then all your peers will be struggling with it. So he said, yeah, I'll speak to this person, that person, and introduce them to you because you've helped me out. So I think it's trying to understand who's around the client, and who can you help, and just be straight up and ask. We can do the exact same as what we've done for you, for your colleagues.
Yeah, I think it's also not framing it in the sense of literally tell everyone you know about me, because you don't want everyone. You want the 3 or 4 best people around them to be introduced to them. So an old mentor of mine that Anna knows, what he would do is he'd hand a client 5 business cards, and he said, I'm not giving you any more until we meet next year, and I want you to really think about who you pass these business cards over to. And so to make sure they're the right fit for me, because when we had our first meeting, it was you seeing if you were the right fit for me, but it was also me seeing if you were the right fit for me. I think I've said that the right way around. I think I got that. We all know what I was talking about, yeah. But the point is, it's sort of that almost exclusivity, because nobody wants to be part of a members club where everybody is allowed to join. There's got to be some sort of selectness in who joins, and you don't want to have to deal with all these new introductions if they're not going to be suitable for you. So one of the parts of my pitch on a first meeting would be, if I really like them, I think they're going to be a great fit. Say the guy's Johnny. It's like, Johnny, look, I've really enjoyed this meeting. I'd really like to work with you, but more importantly, I'd really like to work with other people like you. And so, if there's anyone in your space that could be a good fit, do let me know. But only if they're like you. I don't want the person who walks your dog or whatever it may be. That's the kind of business that I'm trying to build for the next 30 plus years, whatever it may be.
And how do you say the opposite? How do you say no to clients?
I'll always give someone half an hour of my time.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who they are. I'll always give them half an hour of my time. And I think most people will come away with some sort of benefit from it. And I have done lots of meetings, particularly in the really early days where the conversation wasn't how much can you get in your pension, it's how can you work down 30 grand of credit card debt so you can pay the rent or whatever it may be. And so I'll give them half an hour, but if there's nothing else there for me, that's going to be it, because eventually I've got a business to run.
I honestly do think those are the most useful things we can do, though. I mean, I've done it recently, been really busy, but had probably in the last month 3 meetings where there wasn't much going to come, but they came to us reaching out for advice, or it came from one of my connections where you want to help. Had those conversations, and they've all left brilliant reviews. From those reviews, I've got more clients, and if they haven't left me a review, a couple of them have actually sent clients through, going, well, I know you helped talk through and you spent a lot of time with so and so, and if I know you'll do that for him, I know you'll be honest and tell me if I don't need your services, and it's that, well, if you've been honest, and it's the ones you turn away that are probably going to bring you more back than those that you've helped.
And see if you have a client who maybe doesn't have a lot of disposable income but wants to start, they've got everything else set up in the background, but it's not really worth it for you to take them on. What do you say to them? Do you recommend that they just look at the wider market for, other options? What do you say? Because this is something that I kind of struggle with.
I'll send them over to Will.
Yeah, literally. I'm sat here waiting. It's definitely a tight box. I've had a lot of those conversations recently, a lot.
Yeah.
And I literally sat there where someone's going, well, tell me who I can put my things with. And I went, well, I can only tell you about our advice and our advice proposition, and you are not right for that. So what I can tell you is, if you go on Google, you will be able to find one. I can tell you that these are the things you need to watch out for. These are the traps, This is why, flexible access might be important for you. Or this, you can talk them through the things to watch out for charging wise and everything else. But other than that, you've sort of got to sit on your hands, and you've helped them in pointing them in the right direction far enough, and avoid the trap of getting sucked into, well, which provider's best. And
that's interesting.
Yeah, it sort of goes back to what we were talking about in the last episode, where you're either hunter gatherer or what was the other one I said?
I think you just kept making
farming. Yeah, I was just slating Will the entire time. No, it was farming, and so I'll get quite a few referrals where they're not right now, but they will be in 10 years or so. Maybe they're real young professional and they're earning good money now, but they don't have much to save, and I'll still take those clients on. I probably won't make much money from them, but I know that it'll be coming. Or it'll be someone who's probably likely to have some sort of windfall, maybe sale of a parent's business or an inheritance or something like that. I still work with them. I won't make money from them, but we're in this for the long game, and I think those that are in it for the long game will ultimately be more successful. So I'll still have time for them. I'll still take them on. There's got to be a minimum. There's got to be a line, but that certainly helps.
It's hard to say no to any business when you're first starting out. And as you just mentioned, a couple of my smaller cases then, moved to be introducers to bigger cases, or introductions to, parents, those types of things. So it is hard to say no to things. And even if a protection policy is the only thing you get out of it, then you're protecting those clients and you're doing the right thing.
Yeah.
What do you think is the biggest challenge you've ever got from accountant or solicitor for not referring business?
I've never been challenged. I don't think I have been challenged. I think because if you set them up in the right way, it's all about setting expectations, whether that's a referrer or a client. I've had clients come back to me and say, "Why is it taking you 4 weeks to do a pension transfer?" And that's because I haven't said at the beginning, well, it's going to take me at least 4 weeks to get the valuations from the providers, let alone by the time the power planner's done their work and I've done my bit and file checking's done itself. And I think with referrers, I've been quite good in saying, look, this is me. I haven't got loads of business at the moment, but what I can offer is that there aren't many other financial advisors the same age as me. And you've probably got quite a few clients my age that will get on really well. We don't buy from the company, we buy from the individual. And so that's essentially another string to your bow. If you are dealing with younger clients, I'm going to be a really good fit for them.
Yeah, I think from mortgages or mortgage brokers, a few clients have said about basically a few introducers, have said, my clients are coming to me for debt. They won't have money to invest, but it's never the case, and there's always pensions in the background and other types of business that we can help with. So but I do understand where they're coming from, but that's definitely incorrect.
I think the other thing sometimes, challenge I've seen, is these accountants more so, but if you deal with solicitors or will writers, they don't have the same long-term relationship with their clients. They're not sitting down with them every year. So because of that, they don't see the same value. Whereas accountants get it a little bit more because they go, well, if you've got a financial advisor on side, I'm not going to have to be the one telling you to do your pension. I'm not going to have to, they see that benefit a little bit more.
Yeah, I think it's knowing when to or what to look for in a referrer and thinking outside the box, because as I said, we are quite it's an uphill battle for us because we've got to make these new relationships, and a lot of these accountants, particularly the successful ones, are going to have those relationships in play already, and so it's the other people in our space that that you can look to, and say there is a senior accounting partner at a firm. Who's his junior? Well, I presume to him. Who's their junior? Who's the equivalent of me in this space? And they might start sending you business, or thinking, okay, well, there's a company in the next town to me that offers SIPs and SASs. Okay, can I have a chat with them? They work with financial advisors all day. Can I have a conversation and coffee with them? And it's just trying to just put yourself out there and get your name heard. We haven't even talked about social media on here and trying to find people through that. I think there's a whole nother world.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
It is a difficult one. I know other financial planning firms that go into introducers and just say, if we can grab some of your time, 15, 20 minutes, we're going to do a short presentation and we're just going to show you exactly how we think we can show your clients, and that's had a good success rate as well. And also offering CPD to accountancy firms and solicitors as well. I've never done it, but I've heard that's a good route as well. So plenty of options.
It's not something I've done, but I know that the CPD route is definitely a massive thing. Not only with accountants as well, same with will writers. And when I say I've seen it be successful, I've seen will writers do it for advising firms and people like that, and it does just hammer home. Well, you might as well refer to someone who you know, and they've helped you out in a way by giving you 2-hour structured CPD. So,
yeah, I think another thing that you can look at if you're starting off is to just look at what events you can start speaking at. Look, teachers in particular need financial advice because the pension scheme is really, really complicated. The NHS needs people to help with that area. Doctors, dentists, civil servants, anyone with a DB pension scheme. If you know somebody that works at one of these places, maybe a local school or something, and see if they can get you in to speak to all the teachers, during a lunch break or something like that. It's just getting your name on a poster in that office so you can be that person, and it's an added value to the person you were trying to help with. I know one guy who thought he was going to care homes and try and do a speech and said that I should do the same. And I don't know how comfortable I felt doing it because it felt a little bit off doing it. But I get it if you're looking at it from a long-term care point of view, or equity release, or inheritance tax, but it just feels a little bit dirty, But there's so many options. Not networking groups. There are these sort of groups for men and women of a certain age, not to be too Greg Wallacey, that meet up and do social events, and they're always looking for speakers at their dinners, and they'd love to have a financial advisor. So it's just being a bit creative, thinking outside the box and thinking, okay, what else can I do that Joe Blogg's financial advisor isn't doing down the road?
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Any other final points?
I'm ready to go and speak to a few more introducers. I don't know. Some ideas jotted down.
Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm going to call it a wrap on episode 8. So we've covered the ins and outs of referrers, who they are, how they introduce us, and what we can do to make those handovers a little bit smoother. Look, if there's one key takeaway, it's just the great referral isn't about the introduction. It's also about the trust that you have with them. And it's easier. The easier we make it for referrers to bring us into the conversation, the better those introductions are going to be. Look, so we'd love to hear from you. Who's been the most unexpected referrer, or what's the best or worst introduction that you've ever had? Just drop us a message or a comment on LinkedIn or YouTube or X, formerly Twitter, and let's just keep this conversation going. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please help us out by subscribing, leave a review, and share it with another financial advisor who finds it useful. And if you've got a question or a topic that you'd like us to cover in a future episode, please send it our way, and it might feature on the next episode. So thanks for tuning in to Lessons on Advice, and we appreciate you being part of this journey, and we'll catch you in the next episode. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.